Get 'em.
Welcome, folks. Y'all come on in and make yourself at home. This here, well, this is the Rolling Thunder Podcast, your home for all things Rolling Thunder.
Get ready, outdoor enthusiast. The Ducks Unlimited Expo, presented by Purina Pro Plan, is landing in Memphis August 1st through 3rd at the Renaissance Convention Center. Experience the ultimate celebration of hunting, conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. Connect with vendors from across the country, showcasing the latest gear, apparel, and hunting accessories. Learn from experts and connect with people just like you. August 1st through 3rd, 2025 at the Renaissance Convention Center. See you in Memphis for DUX.
Welcome to another episode of the Rolling Thunder Podcast. I am joined by my buddy Big Germ.
Hello, hello.
Have you taken enough Advil to get your joints and your lower back through the weekend that we just got steamrolled by?
Not quite yet. I need about one more day.
The pregame Monday morning meeting this morning was interesting. There were some tired puppies, and no one was on time, but close.
Yeah.
We have with us today our friend, Miss Haley Duffey, who is the director of the Somerville, what do we call it, branch, location, the Somerville Carl Perkins Center.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Haley.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have you ever been on a podcast?
I have not. This is my first one, so I'm so excited.
Well, we're glad to have you, and really just wanted to kind of share some news with you. We did a little bit of the accounting and kind of what, we came up with. But before we go there, what'd you think of everything? I mean, the weekend and Friday night.
This was the best one yet. We come and we have such a good time. It's so good to see so many friends and families, but I was blown away by the crowd. I mean, there were just hundreds and hundreds of people here. It was unreal.
I keep getting asked how many people were here, and I have no idea. I've heard all the guesses seem to be between 400 and 500.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Miss Lindy said that there were roughly 70 to 80 plates under the bar, and she added 400 plates. And we'll call that 450 plates. All those plates were gone Saturday after golf when we came back to eat leftovers and burgers.
Oh, gosh.
So we're calling that somewhere in the 400s in terms of number of plates of people we fed. I know Malcolm said, 16 butts, 150-pound hog. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many pounds of baked beans and slaw, but they didn't run out of food. And we had about 2 pounds of barbecue left over, so I don't know how they managed to hit the nail on the head. But
they've been doing it a long time.
They have been doing it a long time. But we asked them to feed 250, and we fed a lot more than 250.
Oh gosh, so, yes, for sure.
I don't know how they did that, but.
Yeah, one time I stepped on the porch with my dad, and we were trying to get a best guess. We put out 50 tables, 10 seats to a table. There were people at every table. Not every seat was full because so many people were standing up, walking around, seeing some of the vendors, hanging around the boats, hanging out with Malcolm, coming in and out, seeing the items inside, looking at the band. So, I mean, our best guess was 500.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. The thing that really did surprise me, though, is this is the first live event we've had here where we didn't consider where people were going to park, and I still don't know where people parked.
Well,
My kids told me they all parked down here just to the west of us at the Dollar Tree and walked. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, and then across the street at the co-op, and then Quality Carpets next door. That's where we were. And then I think they were on down further past there.
I fully expect one of these days I'm going to get a phone call from a neighbor that's like, hey, can you make sure nobody parks here? But so far, nobody has, and I guess that's just a testament to living in a rural community, and people are glad to have something other than the Mexican restaurant to go do every now and then.
That's right.
No offense to the Mexican
And it's a good
restaurant.
crowd of people that were here. They weren't here to cause any damage. They were just here for a good time.
Yeah, no doubt. And they were here early. I mean, I went home at, 4:45, shower real quick. I was back by 5:15, and it was hopping.
Really?
I mean, people were everywhere. So
it happened fast.
It did happen fast.
Like normally it's live at the shops. You
It's a slow trickle.
have that from the marketing standpoint where I normally sit. It's always that weird, like, did we do enough? Did we do enough? And like you said, they slowly trickle in. It went from, well, first off, our probably closest friend started hanging around at lunch. But, and that's normal, so I didn't even, count that. But, man, I got busy doing something, running coolers or moving something outside. And, I mean, I turned around and looked back up, and this place was full. And even after dinner, the inside cleared out pretty quick after the buffet line went through. So it felt empty inside. And most of the time, live at the shop is inside. So it felt very empty. I walked outside and I said, no one has left.
Nobody.
That's when the Park Hillbillies started jamming, and it just.
I kept expecting during the auction part, because we had a live auctioneer for a minute.
Yes.
I kept expecting any moment to see tail lights, and kind of there's always that awkward silence when the music stops and people are like, yep, time to go, Nobody left.
No.
And the Hillbillies started playing again, and it was like, these people aren't leaving. This is going to be a while. I want to draw attention real quick to 3 groups of people that really made this possible. The first is we sold a gazillion hole sponsors. And, I mean, you can see on the event banner over there, there's a blue million logos at the bottom.
Yes.
And I say we sold. We really didn't do all that much other than we had a flyer and we texted it to our friends, and that's such a testament to how much our friends believe in the things that we believe in, And so they came loud and proud, our whole sponsors. Secondly, I would just want to draw attention to the fact that this year what we did different than in years past. Dinner has always been on the house. Drinks have not always been on the house. But our buddy Corbett Moss, who offices here half the time and across the street at the co-op half the time, he got the Mid-South Farmers Co-op to come to the table and provide $5,000 for all of the food and all of the plates and all of the things that, it took to make dinner happen. So Malcolm Reed and his team came to the table with labor and hog and seasoning and, all the sides and fixings. And let's be honest, they brought as big of a crowd as the Park Hillbillies did, because everybody has learned how to smoke something from Malcolm Reed and his YouTube videos. And then the second one, or third one that I wanted to mention is just Shin Gear. They came to the table this year and said, we want to play a big role. They wanted 2 golf teams. They wanted to sponsor the bar in the form of a watering hole. And so we had more than enough cups and koozies and cold beer and an open liquor bar and a bartender and all the things that just make it a fun event. And the only thing that people were contributing money to was the event itself, the Carl Perkins Center being the beneficiary of that. And so whole sponsors, Malcolm Reed, and then our presenting event sponsors and Shin Gear and the Mid-South Farmers Co-op. We couldn't have done all this without them.
Well, and they wouldn't have been able to contribute without you guys hosting this event. I mean, what a fun event. And I know it takes, I do a lot of event planning myself, so I know how much it takes and all the volunteers that step up to help you make it happen. The auction was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, it was great.
The one that I've not mentioned is Gabe Baker and Ducks Unlimited.
Oh,
and
yes.
Gabe did more maybe than anybody else, second probably only to you, Jerem. He brought his whole team of auction. He had 2 girls that helped with the auction, the raffle drawing, auction things, tickets, and then he brought the bartender, and he brought, was his name Junior or JR, the auctioneer?
Yeah, that's right.
Talk about a pro. The man set up shop in the tuning room and was making notes on everything. He just got here early and saw everything and figured out who everybody was. And, I mean, he got the microphone and it was like, bam.
He was great.
He was on it.
Yes.
And so we couldn't have done it without – we have done it without Gabe, and the prizes and things were relatively pathetic because they were the few things that we could come up with and that we could muster from our friends. But Gabe brought lots of people who are accustomed to participating in these kind of events to the table. I mean, we had in our live auction a couple of guns. We had even a fishing trip to South Louisiana to the marsh, and that's just because Gabe knows all the right people. And I think Gabe had a great time on Saturday. His team didn't shoot very good golf, but they were smiling really big coming into the clubhouse. So I just did all the thank yous, but that's where I'm at. Did you have any feedback or thoughts, Haley?
Well, I know what it takes to plan a successful event, and it was hands down just a fantastic event all around. I know everybody who attended had a great time.
Yeah.
They enjoyed participating in the auction. I got to talk to even some of the golfers at
Yeah.
church on Sunday, and I know the rain might have slowed things down a little bit, made for a little bit longer day, but I think that just was longer fun, for everybody on Saturday. So I just want to make sure, from the Carl Perkins Center, that everyone knows how much we appreciate it, how much we just need our community support.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, the Carl Perkins Center is a child advocacy center. We help children and families who've experienced abuse, and we won't stop child abuse until we all do something about it.
Yeah.
And so I just appreciate Rolling Thunder giving us this platform to
Yeah,
share what we
sure.
do with people, and so that people can jump in and help where they can.
Yeah. So the story on the scramble we told a couple of times, but I'll tell it again since you're listening, Haley, now. But this idea started in 2017. We were duck hunting, and one of our best buddies, who's played in every one of these scrambles, said, we got to come up. He's from Northwest Arkansas. We call him Rick. That's his nickname. But he said, we got to come up with a reason to all get together in the off season. And to which he looked at Derek, and they're both scratch golfers and always talking trash back and forth. And he said, Derek, since you're the president of the country club, why don't you just host a golf scramble? And Derek looked at me and was like, I'll do that. Are you in for that? And I was like, sure. And so for the first couple of years, we called it the quote-unquote Rolling Thunder Golf Scramble, and I had almost nothing to do with it because I'm just not a big – I love watching golf, but I'm just not a big golfer. I got enough things to do with the rest of my time. And so Rick was here this year. They shot 19 under, and they were tied for the win, and they had a blast. And Rick this year was the first time he brought his wife and all four. He's got like 100 kids. I think he brought them all, and they were hilarious. They were here Friday night, and they're just the sweetest. He's got 3 daughters and a son, and he just kept saying over and over, he was like, I cannot believe that's what this has turned into. So it's pretty fun because when we did that first year, we had a little bit of money left over, and it was like, we can't pay all this money out to these guys just for showing up, drinking beer, and playing golf. And everybody agreed that we would give the money away, and it was just a couple $1,000s, but it was a start. And so, from there, realistically, Lindy and I just kind of learned about the Carl Perkins Center indirectly as a result of that because we gave that money away that first year, and we really didn't know what the Carl Perkins Center did. We just knew you and Jeff through church and school. And so will you kind of tell folks a little bit about the Carl Perkins Center and some of the different services that you provide and
Sure,
or
absolutely.
y'all provide?
Yeah, so we are a child advocacy center, and there's child advocacy centers all over the world. But the Carl Perkins Center is specifically to rural West Tennessee. So we actually cover 20 counties in rural West Tennessee, and I'm the director of the one in Somerville. So what a child advocacy does is we offer forensic interviews for children who've experienced abuse. Law enforcement, DCS, before child advocacy centers were around, the kid would have to go from different, professional agency and tell their story over and over and over again. And if you've ever had to tell somebody a hard story, depending on who you're talking to, is going to depend on exactly how you tell it.
Yeah, when it's already a hard story and then you have a hard audience, it's worse.
Yes, and the questioning techniques were different. Some people would say, ask very direct yes and no questions instead of open-ended questions. That doesn't hold up in court real well because it can say you were coaching the kid to say a certain thing. So what a child advocacy center does is offers a place for law enforcement, DCS, and of course the professionals at the child advocacy center to bring the family there, and we interview the child. We have forensic interviewers. We interview the child one time, and they have an opportunity to tell their story in a way that is non-leading and can be held up in court. And so that's recorded. Law enforcement, DCS, myself, we sit in a different room. We watch. The forensic interviewer will check in with us and see if we have any more questions, and then they'll be able to wrap up the interview. That's just the beginning, though. We offer trauma therapy for children ages 3 to 18. We do trauma therapy. Our therapist is trained in 3 different therapy modalities, so we can customize it specific to that child's needs. We offer victim advocacy. Our victim advocate goes to court for the families. You know, mom and dad can't go to court all the time, you know, assuming they're not the aggressor in the case. But the caregiver of the child may not be able to go to court. Well, Kendall goes and will update the families of what's going on in court. Kendall also will be there when the child does have to. She's she works with the assistant district attorney, and they do court prep with the child. They let the child practice sitting on the, you know, up there in the front in the courtroom. We had one girl one time, she said, I feel like a princess up here. I mean, she felt like she was the star of the show, and we made her feel like the star of the show.
Awesome.
They get to tell us what their favorite color is. And so the advocate, the district attorney, we're all wearing that color. Like everybody that's on that child's team that day, we're all wearing that child's favorite color. So if they have to look down, they don't have to detail their story on
because of the forensic interview.
Because of the forensic interview. They do have to take the stand, say, this is me, that, you know, I am who I am, that's me in the video, I told the truth. And then they get to leave. And they can go hang out with Kendall in a side room while all that other stuff happens in the courtroom, and they can play the video. It doesn't stop the defense attorney from cross-examining the child, but we've practiced
Makes the
with
defense
the child.
attorney look like a real jerk if they...
It's usually...
I can say that. You can't say that.
I can't say that, but, you know,
But if it gets ugly, I guess what I'm getting at is it's just it's a whole different situation when a kid can tell their story in a safe place.
Well, and, you know, there's almost never evidence. It's just he said, she said, or she said, he said, you know, whatever. There's no physical evidence. There's not a video recording of it. It's not like when you steal at Walmart and there's a video recording of you doing it, you know. But if you have a child who can tell their story in a safe space, they can tell you what was going on that day, what they were wearing, you know, that it was raining outside and it was the day before my birthday, and they have all these details of the story, you believe that child. And what's so important, though, is that let's say the child's 7, and we don't make it to trial because there's a really good defense attorney who can
Delay.
Yes,
Yep.
kick it down the road, you know, a little bit. So 2 years later, the 9-year-old may not have all the details, but they're able to go back and rewatch their video. Sometimes more information is gathered through therapy. We've had a case where they dropped those charges and reapplied even more charges and put the guy away longer than they expected. But anyway, I'm getting in the weeds there. We do a lot of great things. We also do nurturing parenting classes, and then we do prevention trainings too. We teach stewards of children, which is a child abuse prevention training for adults. We also do, it's called Child Safety Matters, and we teach kids what abuse is. I tell this all the time, and it makes sense to me, but you know, what you do in your home is normal for you, and what I do in my home is normal for me, but sometimes it's not normal. And I always give the example of putting ketchup on your eggs. I went to my friend's house. I spent the night. They handed me a bottle of ketchup at breakfast, and I was like, what in the world am I supposed to do with this? And they were like, you're going to put it on your eggs. And I was like, no, I'm not. I put salt and pepper on my eggs. But anyway, so we all have different things that are normal in our home, and we have a training where we teach third graders in all the schools in Fayette County what abuse is. So if something is happening that's unsafe, if there are red flags in their life, that they know how to find a safe adult to make that disclosure to.
That was a really polished, great encapsulation of everything that you guys do. I want to tell 3 minor stories in conjunction with what you just said. So one thing a lot of people don't realize, you grew up in Arkansas.
Yes.
And I remember you told me one time that when you were coming up, if someone, a child, experienced abuse and the parents reported that, the first conversation that happened was between the child and the state police.
Oh, yeah.
State trooper. I mean, big
That's
cowboy
who was doing
hats.
the interviewing.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. And so if you are a parent, you know how hard it is to get your kids to just learn how to look someone in the eyes, shake their hand, speak coherently without hanging their head and looking at the floor and shuffling their feet. And so one of the first things that I learned about the Carl Perkins Center was kind of this whole idea of just having an advocate, because without an advocate, you're scared to death of, at a young child's age, you're scared to death of law enforcement. You've never done anything in your life that creates that fear. It's just an intimidation factor.
Sure.
Nothing against our law enforcement. It's just that's a really awkward thing to have to talk about abuse to somebody that's that intimidating. And so I draw attention to that just because we're really blessed in West Tennessee to have access to the network of advocacy centers like the Carl Perkins Center, where a child doesn't have to sit down with an intimidating law enforcement officer.
Yes.
The second story that I wanted to draw attention to in what you said was about the forensic interview. In lieu of a documented forensic interview done by an organization like the Carl Perkins Center, a child has to sit on the stand and explain in detail what happened in order for there to be a criminal case. And that's, I mean, you think having a conversation with law enforcement's hard in your own home. Now put a child, an 8, 9, 10-year-old child, in a courtroom with a judge and a whole bunch of law enforcement officers and the person that did something to them to harm them and their parents and a whole bunch of other people that they don't know. I mean, you can imagine how when you don't have a safe or a peaceful first conversation, an advocate, and then you have to take that next step in the courtroom, you can see how many times legitimate abuse, criminal abuse, never gets prosecuted fully because there's so many roadblocks in the way. And so I just wanted to draw attention to those two things, because most people that are listening don't think about the steps it takes if your child was ever a victim of child abuse, what it would take to actually get justice to be seen. And it's not just you don't just snap your fingers and somebody goes to jail. There's a whole part of the justice system that's trying to that makes that difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kendall sets up, our advocate sets up the expectations. You know, best case scenario, we're done in a year. So I'm walking with you every step of the way. We're going to be talking at least once a month all the way through. We're going to keep updated. You're going to update me on things. I'm going to keep you informed, and we're going to walk through this together. And it's just so important and so helpful, because the first thing the parents say is, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, nobody does.
Right, nobody does.
Nobody researches that and figures out, well, if this ever happens, I'm going to be ready.
Right.
No, it always
A lot
catches
like,
you off guard.
it's a lot like losing a loved one or grief. I mean, you
ready.
can't prepare yourself for that. You can hope that you have a sufficient support system around you to walk such a treacherous road, and you would never hope that on somebody, but there's just a lot of good that comes from organizations like the Carl Perkins Center and the work that you guys do. The third little story that I wanted to bring light to after the things you said is the training portion.
Yes.
Our church requires that everybody that works with kids in the youth group or in the nursery and things, or I think we do. I hope we still do.
Yes, you do.
If we don't, I'll make sure that
we do.
Run that up the flagpole. But they make sure that all of our adult volunteers go through that training, and it's not so much when I went through it. It was some learning about what is abuse, but more than that, I think one of the good things that comes out of that is that there are signs of abuse that can be spotted in the lives of children and the conversations that come out of being in a safe place like a church or in a nursery or a youth group or a middle school event, and so that doesn't oftentimes get the notoriety that it should when you guys are explaining what the Carl Perkins Center does. But if you're an organization in West Tennessee that interacts in the lives of children, whether it's a private school or a public school or a church group, it's an easy training to go through, and it's very worthwhile, because a lot of times kids don't just raise their hand and go, somebody abused me, please take me to the Carl Perkins Center, right? I mean, somebody's got to recognize what's going on.
And this training is available. I know you've got people listening all over. If there's a local child advocacy center in their area, I mean, they may be doing the Stewards of Children trainings as well. So they could be in another state, and they may be able to take it too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for explaining all that. I feel like I did a terrible job relative to how well Haley just verbalized all that. But I tried about 100 times this weekend to explain what the Carl Perkins Center is and does. And the truth of the matter is, most people that were here Friday night and on Saturday don't know those details. And quite honestly, if they knew, they would care. They just were here having a good time and supporting what they believe to be a good cause, and it is indeed a good cause. But I wanted you to jump on with us today and kind of talk about it, because it's hard to explain all these details at a cocktail party, or at a golf scramble when everybody's having a good time. Everybody trusts that we're supporting a good cause, and it's a great cause. But this seemed like a good format for you to be able to join us and explain exactly what it is that you guys do and what we're supporting and why we support it.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's not party talk. Child abuse is not party talk. I do understand that people want to have a good time. I'm grateful that they want to have a good time and come and support you and support us. And so I am grateful for this opportunity to get to share a little bit more about what we do.
Well, with all that being said, what I wanted to tell you is that we tallied up all the numbers, and we are so excited to let you know that we raised $52,650.
No way! That is amazing.
After all of our expenses and everything, that went into it, that's more than double what we've ever raised before.
Yes,
which
that is.
I didn't see coming.
That's incredible.
So we're thrilled, and I just want to say again, thank you to all the people who really. What the humbling thing about the weekend for me personally was that we leaned into this, and like we gave some influence this direction, but this was not really something that we did. And so there's really not any, I can't take any credit because I didn't get my checkbook out and write some giant check, but I was humbled by the fact that so many different friends of ours, friends of our brand, and yours, Germs, and all just kind of our whole staff, whoever we asked for support, it was an automatic, absolutely, let us know. And a funny thing, a couple of our folks that we asked had to say no because they work for large corporations who make their charitable donations a year in advance. And every one of those that said we can't do it this year has already agreed to have it on next year's budget.
Oh, wow,
so,
that's amazing.
I'm just ecstatic by where we ended up, and grateful for our friends and our corporate partners and all the folks that showed up Friday night. So
yes, and if I can just interject for just a second, just a little bit about the need. We are a nonprofit. We're about 50% grant funded, and the other 50 is fundraising.
Okay.
So I started in 2017, same time y'all were starting the golf tournaments, and when I started then, I was a full-time employee, and I had a part-time therapist. And that's where we were in Fayette County, because the center didn't get opened until 2016.
Okay.
And then we had 52 cases of severe child abuse that year, which is a lot. That's one a week. That's way too many for Fayette County. But as the golf tournament has grown, as our need for services has grown, I think our largest number of child abuse cases since then was 111, so more than doubled. We ended up, right now, we're looking at one new severe case every 5 days in Fayette County. That's what we're averaging. But since then,
can I point out, you told me one time, does not necessarily mean that child abuse is on the rise. It means that the training and education portion of being aware of what is child abuse is probably on the rise.
Absolutely, yes. It's not that we didn't have child abuse in Fayette County before 2016, right?
We didn't know about it.
No, people weren't talking about it, and they didn't know where to go. Because I get calls all the time where people go, here's what I know, and I don't know what to do. And so I'm able to walk them through the steps. But, now we have 3 full-time employees at the center. So I have a full-time therapist because I need a full-time therapist. We're not splitting with one of the neighboring counties. And we were able to hire a full-time advocate because before then, our advocate was housed in Tipton County. It would only come specifically for forensic interviews in court. And so they built a relationship with me. I was the one that greeted them every week for therapy, and then they would go to therapy. So they had a relationship with me and our therapist, but not our advocate. And on some of the hardest days, like your court day, when you need someone who was comforting presence for you, it was somebody coming in that they didn't really know that well. And so we were able to, I wanted a full-time advocate. And let me tell you, they get birthday bags. They get hand-drawn because, we don't have a big budget, so we get paper sacks. But Kendall's a fabulous artist, so she puts her names on it. She draws their favorite animal on the bag. We get Beanie Babies donated to us all the time. So they get a Beanie Baby. They get candy. I can't tell you how much, leftover Halloween candy and stuff people donate to us.
That's great to know.
So we take all the leftover candy and we put it in the bag with, maybe some pencils or something that we have. I get those Oriental Trading $20 coupons, on the book. And so Kendall gets so excited. That means she gets to go shopping because she's got $20 worth of free stuff to buy for the kids. So you're making a difference is what I want you to know. And all the supporters for the golf tournament, we've been able to grow and expand our services because of the fundraising, and we're able to offer just I won't settle for anything less. So our families get the absolute best service that you can get in a child advocacy center, and all the little details from birthday bags to graduation bags and everything in between.
And while you're talking about need, you've outgrown your current facility.
Yes.
In a weird way. Right. Talk about that.
So we've talked about forensic interviews and what that means. But what it also means is when we have a forensic interview scheduled, sometimes that's the time and day because we have to figure out when DCS and law enforcement, everybody's available. And so what happens is we may have a rambunctious 6-year-old that also has therapy scheduled at that time. And so we have to cancel therapy. And if I have a parenting class scheduled in the room where we have classes, also where we view the forensic interviews, because that's where the TV is. So I have to cancel parenting class. So mostly anytime we have a forensic interview, I have to cancel everything. And
makes your facility a single purpose. You can't do two things at one time.
Yes, and then our families sit on the couch. So I've had somebody come in before and open the door and say, what's going on and how's it going? What are you doing here? And we're in the middle of a forensic interview.
Really awkward.
This is a very sensitive time for this family, and they're sitting on the couch right when you walk in the front door. So I need a building expansion. And what that's going to allow us to do is to turn my office into the sitting room for the families who are waiting. So it's more private. It's on the other side of the wall. Still has plenty of access. Also a place for our therapist to be able to meet with her caregivers between therapy sessions. So we got a safe place, private place for them to meet. But we'll also have 2 other offices in the back and a larger meeting room. I can have parenting classes back there. We can have, therapy going on back there and someone else up front. We'll have a back door coming in, in the back half of the building because we're just going to extend straight out the back door. So we're going to have a new kind of side door where we could have 2 different families there. We've had back door neighbors have therapy at our center before. We do not want people running into their friends and family and schoolmates, and we don't want them to see each other. So it's very important. Confidentiality is so important. And we had one time dueling backdoor neighbors, and we didn't realize this. Both of them complained about their backdoor neighbor, and one day one of them started mentioning the kids' names, and we realized these families were coming on the same day, 30 minutes apart for their therapy. And they did not get along. And we did not want them to run into each other at the Carl Perkins Center. So needless to say, we moved one of the families and told them something came up.
Right.
So we could keep them separate. We did not want them to run into each other. So that's what we need. We need 2 more rooms. I'm going to move further towards the back. I'll be able to host stewards of children back there, and we're going to get a new closet. Because what happens right now is if someone says, hey, I've got a car seat, I want to donate to you guys. I say, great, let me see if I can find somebody who needs one. Because otherwise it's just going to sit in the floor of my office.
That's right.
Have no storage. So we're going to get 2 new offices, a new storage closet, and a big room. And then we're going to be able to do more than one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And that's just so important because that's what's best for our kids.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do is what is best for our kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're glad to be a part of it, and it's really satisfying to see the event grow and it be for such a great cause. I know this year more than any year past, our folks here really got it and really appreciated it. And whether it was, on a very base level, the guys got to play golf Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They were ecstatic. Our friends from out of town played golf on Friday and then again on Saturday. And so it it's really, really enjoyable to see such a good cause supported by something that's so much fun, and all those worlds to collide in that way. So
Yes.
Thank you for all that you do, and thanks for joining us and telling us about the Carl Perkins Center.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity so much. Thank
Yeah.
you for supporting our mission.
No problem. No problem. Anything else from you, Big Germ?
I just want to continue to say, just like everything we do, we're going to continue to get better. I mean, literally the first thing we did this morning, Monday morning quarterback meeting, so to speak, we grouped everybody together. Of course, Spence thanked everyone, but first thing we asked was, what did we get wrong? How can we get this part better? What did you guys hear, what did you see, experience? So, this isn't over. This is just.
And we got a good buy-in from everybody, which really gave me a positive. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, when you're a manager of people, or a business owner, when you get your people together and you try to have a meeting like that, you always have one or two that they want to speak up and speak their mind. But then you have 80% of your people that just kind of sit there and they're waiting on the meeting to get over. And to your point, everybody was like, not everybody talked, but everybody had something like, we should do blah, blah, blah. And everything that was said today I was like, dang, they're right. We should do that. And we've not had that in years past, so I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at, about our people and about our calls. And anyways.
Well, I've got my new planner, and it's already blocked off for the first weekend in June next year.
First weekend in June. That's the one thing we did hear a lot. We didn't even know about the golf scramble this year. Well, guess what? It's the first weekend of June every year. And quite frankly, the reason most people didn't know about the golf scramble was because we were selling whole sponsorships so fast, or people were buying in as whole sponsors so fast, that we were filling up golf teams without meaning to. When we sell a whole sponsor, then they can have a golf team, and people would say yes to a whole sponsor and then give me a week or so to find out whether I can get a team together. And then all of these people got teams together. So it just kind of, we never really got to actually, from a marketing standpoint, tell everybody about the golf scramble and say, come play golf with us, because it filled up so fast. And hopefully we'll figure out ways to get around that next year or not.
That's a really good
problem
to have.
Either way, Friday night, June the 5th next year, we're going to have a great dinner party.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you very much, Haley, for stopping by, and we want to thank all of y'all for listening. We will catch you on the next episode. In the meantime, go look up the Carl Perkins Center. If you're in West Tennessee, support the work that they do. If you're in another part of the world, find out where the child advocacy centers are in your part of the world and lean in and support them. There's nobody that needs more assistance than an innocent child that can't advocate for themselves. So on that note, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
See ya.
Join the team that is making a real difference. Ducks Unlimited is powered by people like you. With your help, we can continue to raise funds that drive wetlands conservation across the continent. Whether you are out selling event tickets, securing donations, or finding that next sponsor, we have a role for everyone. Sign up today to join your local DU chapter at ducks.org/volunteer or attend your local DU event. Ducks Unlimited, conservation for a continent.